Dustless seemed to be even more affectionate than his own father. "Brat, you actually want to use me to establish your authority?" Dustless stared straight at God Fengzhao with an ominous glint in his eyes. He had always been the one who tricked others and schemed against others. Now that the male and female lead had turned the tables on him, he felt very uncomfortable. "Everyone has the right to punish a rapist like you. Not to mention that I only wanted to catch you. Even if I accidentally killed you, you deserved it. Laying your hands on such a cute girl, you really are a beast through and through." God Fengzhao glanced at the frightened Claire and said faintly, "Accidentally kill me? Brat, are you an idiot?" Dustless looked at God Fengzhao with ridicule and said disdainfully, "Where did your inflated confidence come from? Cut the crap and bring it on. This time, I will beat you until your mother won't recognize you." God Fengzhao had a rapist on the left and a rapist on the right. At this moment, he had really angered Dustless. "I am innocent, okay?" Sure enough, a beauty's ability was not to fight, but to charm people. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. God Fengzhao didn't waste any more words. He aimed at Dustless's flaws and rushed over like a gust of wind. Full of flaws. Seeing Dustless's body full of flaws, God Fengzhao curled his lips and rushed in front of Dustless in the blink of an eye. His huge fist smashed towards Dustless's face. What fast speed! Is this guy really just an ordinary human? Although his technique is a bit rough, it is obvious that he was an expert in the past. Claire's beautiful eyes lit up. She couldn't help but look at God Fengzhao in a new light. She had only caught a glimpse of that unimaginable speed just now. This stinking brat is going to be unlucky. Looking at the fist smashing towards Dustless, Claire's face lit up with a smile. She could still vividly remember Dustless's humiliation just now. Bang! The fist smashed into Dustless's body, followed by a blood-curdling scream. "Ah, my hand! It hurts, stop pinching, it's going to shatter." The blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered spread through the sky. However, this childish voice was the complete opposite of Dustless's aged voice. How is this possible? Why is God Fengzhao the one being beaten up? Claire's pupils shrank. God Fengzhao's fist was gently grasped by Dustless's right hand. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. "You want to kill me with your half-baked skills? What a retard." With a casual flick, Dustless sent God Fengzhao flying. Soon after, his old face was like a black walk as he pressed towards Claire. "What are you doing? I'm warning you, don't mess around." The young girl retreated in fear. At this moment, Claire was really at her wit's end. Mess around? So what if I mess around? Since you've already said that I'm a rapist, why don't we make the act real for once? Claire was pushed to the front of the giant tree. With nowhere to retreat, she could only look at Dustless in fear. Her gaze was slightly trembling. She was extremely scared. That God Fengzhao simply doesn't know what's good for him. He even dares to use me as a stepping stone to save the damsel in distress. Idiot! Dustless sneered as he looked mockingly at the fleeing God Fengzhao. He was too lazy to chase after such an ant. No matter how much he grew, he was just a small character to him. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 average votes plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2173. Dustless sneered as he looked mockingly at the fleeing God Fengzhao. He couldn't be bothered to chase after such an ant. No matter how much he grew, he was just a small character to Dustless, trash that he could destroy with a flip of his hand. Failing to court death and instead being abused, this was the best embodiment of a male lead. Looking at Dustless, Claire stammered for a long time without saying anything. She could only helplessly look at Dustless. Seeing his cold eyes, she could only beg for mercy. A great person won't hold a grudge against a petty person. Can you spare me this once? I'm still a child who speaks without thinking. Child. Dustless laughed involuntarily and asked coldly, Miss Claire, when you called me a rapist, why didn't you call yourself a child? Who told you to peek at me bathing? Claire said, feeling wronged. Her nose was sour and tears flashed in the corners of her eyes. She looked like she was about to cry. Forget it, just this once. Sighing, Dustless couldn't be bothered to argue with Claire. Moreover, he was the one who had been rude in the first place, barging into someone else's bathing area. Anyone would be incomparably angry if a girl was seen naked by a stranger. Heh heh, this is the demeanor of a true expert. Claire's small face squeezed out a brilliant smile, then she carefully looked at Dustless. Suddenly, she found that his cold face wasn't as annoying as before, but much more gentle. Can I leave now? After saying this, Claire didn't wait for Dustless's reply and quietly left. Stop, I didn't give you permission. Dustless stopped Claire after taking 2 steps. His body flashed and blocked the girl's path like a city wall. As long as Dustless didn't move aside, this natural barrier would never be able to be crossed. You're going back on your word. Claire looked worriedly at Dustless, her hair covered in sweat. She was nervous, filled with endless fear of this great demon king. Back on my word. I'm not that despicable. Bullying a girl isn't a skill, I just have something I need your help with. Dustless shook his head and immediately said, Take me to your school. I have no interest in staying in this desolate forest. Impossible, this is impossible, absolutely impossible. Without even thinking, Claire directly shook her head to reject Dustless's idea and explained, Our school only has female elves, what would a man like you do there? Thinking of how terrifying Dustless was, she didn't say the word pervert in the end. Claire was afraid of angering Dustless. This guy was simply temperamental, turning hostile on a whim. Female elves. Your lousy school is full of weaklings, and there are so many ridiculous rules. Dustlesses, Claire's, Dustless's, Dustless's, Claire's. Of course, there was a special exception, such as God Fengzhao. This guy was a man through and through, but he was also a proper elf's envoy. A man, an ignorant noob who didn't even know how to sign a contract, wanted to become a spirit envoy. This was something that could only be realized in fairy tales. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2175. After spending about half an hour, Claire told Dustless how to sign a contract with an elf. Only then did the two set off again, rushing to the ruins where the elf was sealed. Is this really your first time here? It feels so strange. There are some things that you know better than I do. Claire scrutinized Dustless from the corner of her eye. She was full of doubts but had no answers, so she could only look at Dustless. If you have something to say, just say it. Since I'm in a good mood, ask me any questions you have. Maybe I'll be merciful and answer you. Strolling through the dense elemental forest, the fresh air entered his lungs, making him feel comfortable. Dustless gave a rare smile and said, This is all because you told me how to sign a contract with an elf. Do you think that just because I told you how to sign a contract, you can sign a contract with an elf as you please? Signing a contract with an elf is Witch G's privilege. A lewd beast like you who peeps at other people's baths can only sign a contract if that elf is blind. Claire bluntly attacked. Then she asked, Since this is your first time here, how do you know that there are ruins where the elf's holy sword is sealed? Well. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly. This question was really not easy to answer. After all, it was the ability of a transmigrator to foresight. He turned around and saw Claire's face full of doubts. If he didn't answer, she might harass Dustless the whole way. This is very simple. I'm a big genius. I can tell what people are thinking with a glance. You were bathing just now. No, you were cleaning yourself, right? Your purpose was to sign a contract with the elf here, right? Dustless casually evaded. You even know this. Claire was angry and shocked. She was angry that Dustless had casually tricked her and seen through her thoughts with a glance. That was the ability of a god. How could a mere mortal do it? And she was surprised that Dustless had guessed correctly. She had been bathing just now to sign a contract with the elf. That's why I'm a big genius. That elf is mine, Dustless replied with a smile. What a narcissistic guy. Claire's jade-like nose wrinkled slightly. It was rare for her to continue asking. In any case, even if she continued asking, Dustless would just be fooling her. Oh, right, as if remembering something, Claire's footsteps suddenly stopped. She looked seriously at Dustless and asked, You know my name, but you haven't said your own. Dustless. Glancing at Claire, Dustless answered calmly. Dustless. What a strange name. After chewing it lightly, Claire truly felt that this name was strange. It was like Dustless himself, incompatible with this world. About half an hour later, Dustless and Claire finally arrived at a dilapidated ruin. There were broken walls, messy stones, and weeds everywhere. The entrance to the ruins was sealed by a transparent barrier. Dustless spoke frankly with assurance. His deep eyes were as calm as water, aloof from worldly affairs. In all fairness, an elf envoy might be good, but the increase in strength was negligible. It might not even have the slightest effect. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2176. TSK, I didn't expect a perverted beast like you to have such an opinion. Public morals are really degenerating these days. Krell curled her lips. Although her face was full of disdain, she looked at Dustless in amazement. Obviously, she also thought that Dustless's words made sense. Everything depended on fate. If it was yours, you would always be able to obtain it. If it wasn't yours, you would never be able to obtain it even if you racked your brains. Taking a deep breath, Krell walked to the front of the stone sword. Her eyes shone brightly as she started chanting an ancient and cryptic incantation. Boom boom boom. At the same time, a powerful shockwave suddenly erupted from Krell's body. The shockwave of energy hit his face like a slap. This is the divine might that Krell mentioned, right? It seems very powerful. I wonder what mine is like. Krell's cold eyes suddenly turned into an expectant smile. Coming into contact with a new ability, even Dustless couldn't help but smile. He was full of hope for the future. Boom boom boom. Krell's aura grew stronger and stronger. A strong wind spread out, and even the rocks on the wall were peeled off layer by layer and fell to the ground. Come out. Looking down at the long sword in the stone, Krell's seemingly weak hand finally tightly grasped the ancient sword hilt. Her body's strength reached its limit in an instant. Clang 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 clang. The long sword that was stuck in the stone trembled slightly. At this moment, the deathly still sword body shone brightly as if it had come to life. Then, under Dustless's astonished gaze, the long sword was pulled out of the sheath. Ha ha ha, I pulled it out. Krell was overjoyed. Looking at the shining sharp blade in her hand, a surprised smile appeared on her small face. She showed off to Dustless like a child. Perverted beast, you're destined to have no fate with it. As long as you're happy, Dustless said indifferently. Boom boom boom. At the same time, a dazzling white light suddenly flashed at the top of the cave. In an instant, it was as dazzling as the sun. Dustless and Krell both subconsciously closed their eyes. Caw caw caw. Immediately after, a shattering sound suddenly rang out. Claire suddenly realized that the holy sword in her hand had disappeared. She hurriedly opened her eyes and saw that the divine sword that seemed to be able to cut through iron like mud had actually disappeared. The sword's body was also gradually shattering like particles. What is going on? Claire's eyes widened. Even though she didn't know why the sword had collapsed, she understood that her contract with the elf had failed. Look at that sword on your head. It's full of spirituality. It should be the true holy sword. Dustless' voice suddenly sounded, attracting Claire's attention. She raised her head to look at the sky above her head. A sparkling, translucent holy sword inlaid with dazzling gems invaded her eyes. What a beautiful holy sword. After being stunned for a while, Dustless didn't make any superfluous comments. He only felt that this sword was very exquisite. Buzz buzz buzz, however, this sentence seemed to have angered the holy sword. The sword's body suddenly erupted with a dazzling light. Its aura became even sharper, and there was a vague sword intent wreaking havoc. Even from a dozen meters away, one's skin was faintly aching. What a willful holy sword. Dustless shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect that a single sentence would actually make this deceptive holy sword hostile to him. The meaning it revealed was as if it was saying, I'm not only beautiful, I'm also very powerful. What? Dustless suddenly looked at Claire. Seeing that the ambition in the depths of her eyes hadn't been extinguished, he asked with a smile, You still don't plan to give up? If you continue to fight with it, your life may be in danger. This holy sword hasn't truly awakened yet. If it completely awakens, I don't think I need to tell you the consequences. TCH, you're clearly just an outsider who doesn't even know how to sign a contract with a spirit. You still want to lecture me? Claire raised her head and looked at Dustless with dissatisfaction. She picked up her weapon again, the flame whip. Her contracted spirit, Scarlet, also looked at the holy sword floating in the sky with burning eyes. Her meaning was self-evident. Stubborn. Seeing this, Dustless directly found a place to sit down and watched this scene indifferently. Even though Claire's courage was outstanding, as a transmigrator, Dustless understood that in the end, this stubborn little girl had failed. The holy sword had a spirit. Since it had rejected Claire the first time, no matter how hard it tried, it wouldn't have the slightest effect. Then let me properly train you, Scarlet. The whip in her hand was covered in a layer of blazing flames. Claire and her contracted spirit, Scarlet, attacked the holy sword at the same time. Clang, clang, clang. When the whip hit the holy sword, it would emit a series of loud and clear rumbles. Scarlet also soared into the air, his entire body covered in flames. In an instant, the originally docile Scarlet suddenly became wild. He opened his small fangs and bit the holy sword. However, all of this was of little use. The holy sword was completely fine. Its surface still emitted a dazzling gem aura. Claire's attack appeared very weak. Inside the cave, a human, a cat, and a holy sword were engaged in an intense confrontation. Hum, 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 after a few minutes, the holy sword seemed to be enraged. The surface of the sword flashed with a dazzling light again. The sword floating in the air also suddenly adjusted its direction. The cold light radiating from the tip of the sword was aimed at Scarlet and suddenly pierced out. Scarlet, be careful. Seeing this, Claire was greatly alarmed. She knew that the sealed spirit had been provoked repeatedly and was truly enraged. Poochie. However, even though Claire reminded him that it was Scarlet, it was useless. The holy sword was too fast and pierced through Scarlet in an instant. Awoo! Scarlet let out a blood-curdling scream. Soon after, his body collapsed, turning into raindrops of flames that drifted away. After eliminating Scarlet, the holy sword adjusted its square shape again. The tip of the sword was aimed at Claire. Without hesitation, it suddenly pierced forward, wanting to pierce through her entire body. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Dustless pierced his skin with the holy sword. Blood flowed out of his palm in an instant. The blood and the holy sword became one. Dustless faintly felt a sense of intimacy with the holy sword. Then he recalled the ancient incantation that Claire used to sign a contract with the holy sword. Dustless also copied it, and the crazy holy sword actually calmed down. Boom boom boom. Then, an extraordinary energy wave erupted from Dustless's body. It wasn't very strong, just like an ordinary wind wave. But Claire was so shocked that her eyeballs almost fell out. Is this divine might? How is this possible? Absolutely impossible. What kind of monster is this kid? He's not witch G. It's fine if he can sign a contract with a spirit, but he learned it in half an hour. Then what am I? Claire's mouth twitched. She was the genius problem child of Alicia Elvin Academy's Crow class, but compared to Dustless, she suddenly realized that she was too weak. Although this divine might was extremely weak, it had to be understood that Dustless had only been in contact with the spirit class for half an hour. Sure enough, comparisons are odious. Claire was incomparably complicated. She was rather jealous of the holy sword that had submitted, but she was also happy for Dustless. After all, if it weren't for Dustless, she would have been killed. Is this the power of the spirits? After a while, the movements in the huge room finally stopped, and the holy sword disappeared. Dustless gently closed his eyes and suddenly felt that there was an additional power in his body. Humph, you got lucky, kid. Claire came over, her eyes shining. She looked at Dustless as if she was looking at a treasure, and a sly smile flashed across her face from time to time. Got lucky? Nonsense, the spirit was clearly subdued by my power. Dustless snorted. He looked at Claire with extreme narcissism and said, after all, I'm an out-and-out great genius. You're right, but this sentence is really asking for a beating. Claire was speechless. He actually called himself a genius. How thick was this person's skin? However, it was undeniable that Dustless was a great genius. I'm really surprised that you could sign a contract with the Holy Sword. Apart from Demon King Suleiman, you're the second person to do so. Claire looked at Dustless suspiciously. This guy couldn't be Suleiman's reincarnation, right? No, I'm the third person. Dustless smiled mysteriously. At least there was God Feng Zhao ahead of him. I really don't understand what that spirit saw in you. How am I inferior to you? You're merely a perverted beast. Claire pouted her small mouth and complained very discontentedly. That's very simple. Dustless looked into Claire's eyes and said with a serious expression, that female spirit knew that I'm a flower that blossoms before flowers and is loved by everyone, so she fell in love with me and decisively chose to throw herself at me. Chapter 2178. Shameless. Dustless blinked his watery eyes, full of innocence, and sighed. Using my face to make a living is shameless. It was clearly your strength that convinced the elf. What does that have to do with your appearance? Don't be so full of yourself. Claire pouted, full of disdain. Heh, so you admit that I'm a genius. Dustless smiled, his face full of pride. You dug a hole for me to jump into. Glaring at Dustless, Claire rolled her eyes and said meaningfully, no matter what, I was the one who brought you to these ruins. You should thank me for signing a contract with the elf, right? That's right. Dustless nodded slightly. Claire's words were true. No matter what, she was the one who brought him to sign a contract with the elf, so he had to take credit for it. Then you should thank me, right? Seeing that Dustless didn't deny her contribution, Claire's smile became even more obvious. Her squinted eyes made her look like a cunning fox. Wait. You seem to be implying something. Scrutinizing Claire, Dustless suddenly recalled the girl's personality. He suddenly realized something and asked bluntly, "You can't be thinking of signing a contract with me, right?" TSK, no wonder I think highly of you. You are indeed smart. Claire nodded like a chick chasing rice and even gave Dustless a thumbs up. Don't give me that. Dustless bluntly slapped Claire's little hand away, rolled his eyes, and reprimanded, "Now you know I'm smart. What about before? I didn't see you flattering me before." Claire wanted to say something but stopped. With a sad face, she said, "No matter what, I was the one who brought you to sign a contract with the elf. You won't lose anything by being my contracted elf. Sorry, I'm not interested in selling myself. It's getting late. Let's leave before it gets dark. You don't want to sleep in the wilderness with the lewd beast you speak of, right?" Dustless deliberately looked at Claire lecherously. His eyes were full of aggression, as if he wanted to eat Claire alive. "Let's go." All the hairs on Claire's body stood on end as if she had been provoked. She hurriedly ran away. Passing through the endless wilderness and several mountains, an academy sleeping deep in the mountains entered their eyes. This was the Elven Academy. Rather than calling it a sprite academy, it would be more appropriate to call it a town. There were all kinds of things that one could think of, and there was nothing that one could not buy. I really don't understand. Everyone knows that it's Witch G's privilege to sign contracts with fairies. How can a man like you sign a contract with fairies? In the academy, Claire's face was full of confusion. Dustless, this mysterious species, was puzzled. Didn't I explain before? I'm loved by everyone and flowers bloom when they see me. That female elf was infatuated with me. Dustless yawned and impatiently explained, repeating it dozens of times. This kind of scum was better off dead. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2180. What, you don't dare to come? Seeing that Dustless was still standing there like a rock, Alice raised her eyebrows slightly. Her eyes narrowed into crescents, and she said with some arrogance, "Then please cooperate with my work. Come with me now. If you don't have any problems, I will naturally apologize." Dustless still didn't move. He looked at Alice quietly, as if she wasn't talking about him. "What if I don't go with you?" Dustless asked with a smile. "Then strength will solve the problem." Alice regained her coldness and looked at Dustless with burning eyes. "Ha ha." Dustless laughed dryly, then asked jokingly, "Little girl, what if I don't want to duel with you?" Are you playing with me?" "Very good, unfamiliar face. You have great courage." Alice's face darkened, her gem-like eyes filled with hostility. "Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me." Swish swish swish. With light steps, Alice was like a gentle breeze. In the blink of an eye, she was behind Dustless. Dustless was still looking forward, staring at the place where Alice had been standing. It was as if he hadn't realized what had happened. What a slow reaction. Alice felt disdain in her heart. She curled her lips, then grabbed Dustless's arm tightly with one hand and his thick shoulder with the other. She warned, "You better not act rashly. If you don't have any bad intentions, I will naturally let you go. I will also personally apologize. What if I insist on refusing? Dustless turned his head to look at the serious Alice. He stared at her for a while, then nodded lightly. Little girl is not bad looking, and her temper is much gentler than Claire's. Do you want to be my maid? I just happen to be lacking someone to serve me, so I'll let you have it. You, impudent. You forced me to do this. Alice's face flushed red, feeling that her dignity had been insulted by Dustless. As the leader of the night regiment, Dustless actually asked her to be his maid in front of so many people. If she didn't teach this arrogant brat a lesson, where would she put her face in the future? Who would listen to her? Thinking of this, Ellie unreservedly increased her strength. Her shoulder, which was being grabbed, actually made a caw-caw-caw sound. Heavens, do you want to die? How dare you talk to Alice like that? Well said, he deserves to be humiliated by Alice's authority. Will this guy's shoulder will be crushed? The students who were attracted by the commotion pointed at Wu Qin. Everyone sighed and shook their heads. They understood that someone was going to be unlucky. As the leader of the knights, Alice was respected by everyone. Now that Wu Qin had provoked her, wasn't he courting death? Not bad, very comfortable. Who taught you how to massage shoulders? That person must be a master with superb skills, but your strength is still too weak. If you can use more strength, that would be good enough. Continue, I'm more and more satisfied with you as a maid. Dustless squinted his eyes in satisfaction, as if he was enjoying a stroll in the clouds. After walking with Claire for half a day, his muscles and bones were really sore. Pfft. Ha ha ha, Alice, could it be that all the skills you've learned over the years are to massage people's shoulders and legs? Look at how much Dustless is enjoying it. Claire held her belly and laughed without a care for her image, taking the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. She wouldn't let go of any opportunity to humiliate Alice. You, this bastard, Alice was so angry that she was trembling. Every word that came out of her mouth was said through biting her tongue. It was the first time in her life that someone had humiliated her like this, especially in front of so many people. Since you want to be beaten, I'll fulfill your wish. Alice's eyes became even colder. She was like an ice goddess, her entire body emitting a cold aura. Boom boom boom. At the same time, a formless energy suddenly erupted from her body. Caught off guard, the crowd was pushed back by this powerful energy. Some of them even fell to the ground due to their carelessness. This is her divine might. It seems not bad, and her strength is just average. No wonder she could become the commander of this knight regiment. Unfortunately, you chose the wrong enemy this time. Dustless only turned his head and looked at Alice quietly. The ripples in his heart calmed down, and then a trace of negligible spiritual pressure shot out from his shoulder. Bang! Alice's hand that was holding Dustless's shoulder was instantly sent flying by the terrifying force. She took a few steps back. This. Looking at Dustless in shock, Alice couldn't help but look at him in a different light. She immediately recalled the humiliation from before and angrily rebuked, "Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have some strength. You're still not strong enough to defeat me." Dustless heard her and turned a deaf ear. He suddenly looked up and quietly glanced at the reflection in the corner. He said impatiently, "After watching for so long, you should come out and end this farce, right? Otherwise, I'm really going to make a move." "What did you say?" Alice was furious. She was right in front of him, but this kid was talking to the foot of the wall. He even said some strange things. Was this a disguised disregard and provocation? "Since you're not going to make a move, I'll attack you first." The energy ripples on Alice's body grew stronger and stronger. She had accumulated power and was about to reach her limit. Just as she was about to pounce, a cold voice stopped her. Stop it, Alice. A short sentence, but it made Alice stop immediately. She was all too familiar with the owner of this voice. It was the dean of this academy. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 gifts plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Grievous sat in his office with a look of deep surprise and curiosity. The two seemed to be in conflict. Of course, I was on my way here and happened to meet this guy. At that time, he was assaulting a girl named Claire. God Fengzhao explained, his tone carrying a hint of schadenfreude. No matter what, Claire was still a student of this school. As the dean, Grievous definitely wouldn't let Dustless off. God Fengzhao also knew how powerful this witch was. Assaulting Claire. The first one to speak was not Grievous, but Alice, who did not get along with Dustless. She looked at Dustless blankly and said angrily, "Are you a man? You only know now. Aren't you a little too slow?" Dustless admitted in a disguised way. At the same time, he subconsciously touched his chin and muttered to himself strangely, "Do I really look like a woman?" You bastard are a man, a bastard with a human face and a beast's heart. Beast scum and pervert, I'm going to make you into a salted cod. Alice roared crazily. If it wasn't for Grievous, she might have already attacked Dustless. Little girl, you really don't know what's good for you. Dustless looked at the aggrieved Alice speechlessly and couldn't help but complain. You were the one who took advantage of me. Before, you were touching and pinching me. Now, you're acting as if I raped you. Sigh, morals are degenerating day by day. You can even say such shameless words. Alice stomped her feet and her face was bright red. Thinking about it carefully, she was indeed the one who had taken liberties with Wu Chen previously. Her face became even redder. This matter ends here. Grievous waved his hand, indicating that Alice could leave. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Alice was too naive. Bickering with Dustless was just asking for humiliation. She didn't even know that she was being set up. But he violated the girl called Claire. I heard it myself. God Fengzhao took the opportunity to interrupt. Is that so? Do you have proof? Dustless looked at God Fengzhao casually and sarcastically said, Since you saw me violate her, why didn't you stand up and stop me? Did a coward like you run to a corner to watch the show? What a scum. God Fengzhao was speechless. Of course he stood up and decisively saved the damsel in distress. Who would have thought that the difference in strength was too great? He was beaten up by Dustless and lost all his face. Glancing at God Fengzhao whose face was bruised and swollen, Grievous also guessed something. Let's just get over such a small matter. Claire didn't say that just now. He stared deeply at Dustless, especially the mark on his right hand, which attracted Grievous's attention. His eyes instantly emitted a bright light. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2182. You signed a contract with a fairy? Grievous asked in shock. Due to his excitement, he sat up instantly and looked at the seal on Dustless's hand in disbelief. How can a man sign a contract with a fairy? Isn't that the privilege of witch G? Alice's eyes widened in shock. So this guy is like me. God Fengzhao was also very surprised. He naively thought that he was the only special one. He didn't expect Dustless to jump out at this moment. Yeah, I'm a genius after all. Waving the seal in his hand, Dustless was very proud. After all, it only took half an hour for a layman to sign a contract with a fairy. No one would believe him if he told others. You're really narcissistic. Alice rolled her eyes in annoyance. At the same time, she swore to wash her hands 100 times when she went back because Dustless had touched them. Very good. Grievous smiled faintly as if nothing had happened. He looked at Dustless and confirmed again, "What is your contract with a fairy?" Bang! As soon as Grievous finished speaking, the tightly shut door was pushed open. A flaming red girl with a small bust appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Claire Lucio. Everyone frowned, especially Alice, who didn't have a good relationship with Claire. Her pretty face turned cold. "You came in without knocking. Do you think this is your dorm?" However, what made Alice angry was that Claire only glanced at her and didn't pay attention to her anymore. She was beautifully ignored. "You. How long have you been with this stinky man? Your personality has changed. You like to ignore people like him." Alice's mouth twitched. She realized that Grievous, the dean, didn't say much, so she could only shut up. "He stole my sealed fairy and signed a contract with that holy sword." Claire suddenly opened her mouth and pointed at Dustless. "From now on, this guy is my contracted fairy." Damn it, why did it end like this? Why did the rapist suddenly become a contract spirit? God Feng Zhao's legs slipped and he almost fell to the ground. Previously, he had said that Dustless had violated Claire. But now, the speed at which he was slapping his face was too fast. "You signed a contract with the Holy Sword?" Grievous was even more surprised. He immediately recalled and said, "It seems that yours is special. That Holy Sword rejected dozens of people and suddenly signed a contract with you, a man who can't sign an elven contract. There must be something special about it." At this point, Grievous looked at Dustless with even more curiosity. "From now on, you are a student of the Elven Academy." He looked at Dustless and asked again, "Tell me, what is your goal?" "It's very simple. I'm just trying to make a living," Dustless said lightly. Although his tone was light, it was unusually serious. Trying to earn a living. Not only Claire and Alice, but even the emotionless Grievous was shocked by Dustless's words. "You want to be an elven messenger just to make a living? This reason is too weird." Another problematic student. Grievous sighed and immediately shook his head. "Then in the future." "Oh right, what's your name again?" "Dustless." Grievous nodded and immediately continued, "Then in the future, Dustless and God Feng Zhao, both of you are new students of the Crow class. Alice, now bring the two of them to the school to take a look." After about a few minutes, the few of them came out of Grievous's office. Everyone's expression was very strange. "I'm going to be in the same class as this brat in the future. How unfortunate." God Feng Zhao thought sadly. The wound from Dustless's lesson was still stinging. Charcoal. 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 Claire looked at Dustless angrily. In her heart, she had already regarded him as her property. She didn't forget how Dustless and Alice were flirting with each other just now. Two boys came all of a sudden. The members of the night group must be doubled. These two are not easy to deal with, especially that Dustless. He is even suspected of assaulting Claire. Alice thought in her heart as she looked at the satisfied Dustless. Everyone had different thoughts in their hearts. Only Dustless looked indifferent. He was humming a tune as if everything had nothing to do with him. His eyes were fixed on the scenery outside the window. Creak. After a short while, the group arrived at the Crow class. Dustless and the others were like cranes in a flock of chickens, attracting everyone's attention in an instant. In particular, there was a blonde girl whose looks were not inferior to Claire's. She had a very noble and proud temperament. Her eyes were rolling as she stared unblinkingly at Dustless, who was beside Claire. Who is this? He seems to have a very good relationship with Claire. The blonde girl's face was full of suspicion. Soon after, she rubbed her chin and smiled. Claire is actually standing beside him. This means that he is very important. This guy will be my servant from now on. Dustless was still at a loss. Naturally, he didn't know that he had been targeted the moment he came to the Crow class. As for God Fengzhao, no one cared. This guy was ugly and had no human rights. Previously, he had been beaten black and blue by Dustless. Naturally, he wouldn't attract anyone's attention. On the contrary, groups of young girls were staring at Wu Qin. His appearance was originally handsome and outstanding. His deep eyes were sparkling like clear spring water. Everything could be seen at a glance. There was also a unique temperament of vicissitudes on his body. It was very eye-catching. Some people were even infatuated with him. "You bastard!" Claire took the opportunity to pinch Dustless's waist and scolded in a low voice, "Who told you to be so handsome? Do you understand that you are guilty? You better not mess around. Otherwise, I will definitely turn you into charcoal." Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He cursed inwardly, "Is it my fault that I am handsome? It only means that I inherited good genes. Jealousy is useless. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates." Chapter 2183. Dustless was also speechless at Claire's complaints. Sometimes, when a woman was unreasonable, it was really a headache. Moreover, she had a bunch of crooked reasons. It just so happened to prove that saying, "Only women and villains were difficult to deal with." Linslet Laurenfrost, take back your possessive gaze. Dustless is my contracted spirit. Feeling Linslet's fiery gaze, Claire became even angrier. At the same time, she glared fiercely at Dustless and directly hugged Dustless's left arm. She even said noisily, "Did you see that?" He didn't resist. "This guy is my contracted spirit. You stray cat who likes to steal fish, you better watch out." "Oh, Claire Lucio. I think she seems to dislike you a lot." Linslet's movements were elegant. Her right hand held her chin as she slowly walked over with graceful steps. "Look, this guy's expressionless face means you don't have any charm." "That's right, who told you to be a flat-chested girl?" After saying that, Linslet purposely straightened her chest and looked at Claire with disdain. She even cast a seductive glance at Dustless in an extremely bewitching manner. "You, this, bastard," Claire was furious. Like a kitten whose tail had been stepped on, her hair stood on end. She moved closer to Dustless and said in his ear, "Don't tell me you've taken a fancy to this big-chested girl. You pervert. You're too easy to drive a wedge between us." Dustless felt his head hurt. He raised his hand and rubbed Claire's head. He advised, "Look at the other people's gazes. They're all gloating. Do you want them to laugh at you? I'm warning you, private fights are prohibited in the academy." Alice's gaze swept over the two of them with warning. "I'll let you go this time, but if there's a next time." "Humph." Claire put away her whip and glared fiercely at Linslet. However, not long after, Claire was slapped in the face again. "Newcomer, do you want to sit next to me?" Linslet completely ignored Claire's previous words and very naturally threw flirtatious glances at Dustless. Where does this guy get his charm from? God Feng Zhao, who was at the side, wanted to cry but had no tears. He realized that he was being ignored by everyone like air. He couldn't help but curse in his heart, "It's all Dustless's fault. If it wasn't for this brat beating me up so badly, I wouldn't have been ignored by everyone and even despised. I feel that sitting beside the two of you is too dangerous, so I refuse." Lightly shaking his head, Dustless was not interested. "You?" Claire glanced at Dustless curiously. Her puzzled expression was clearly asking, who was the other person? "You, of course." Dustless said without hesitation. These words instantly ignited Claire's fury. She took out the flame whip that she had originally put away. Dustless, you traitor, pervert, scum. Claire didn't care about her ladylike image at all. Her temper was as fierce as fire. She pointed at Dustless and cursed without caring about the situation. Let's go. Take me to the dormitory to take a look. Dustless was too lazy to pay attention to Claire and disdained to bicker with her. Her once respected older sister had left her, causing Claire to be abnormally nervous about the people and things around her. She had an extremely crazy possessive desire. Of course, this wasn't her fault. After Claire's experience, anyone would have a great change in temperament. Alright, you come over too. Both of you are boys, so naturally you can't live together with girls. I specially built a new dormitory for you. Alice was immensely proud, as if she had done something amazing. She proudly said, your dormitory will be guarded by a group of knights. If you want to do anything dirty to girls, you will be discovered immediately. So I advise you to be tactful. God Feng Zhao couldn't help but be stunned. He bluntly asked, how is this different from living in prison? I protest. That old witch Grievous would definitely not do this. You must be abusing your position to take revenge. You better not be too self-righteous. Alice coldly glanced at God Feng Zhao and bluntly said, I have to disappoint you this time. I only made a slight suggestion, and the dean agreed without any hesitation. This is different from the original work. I don't remember God Feng Zhao being monitored when he first arrived. That old witch is really a scheming bitch, Dustless frowned. In the original work, he didn't remember God Feng Zhao being treated like this. Although it was quite miserable, at least he wasn't being monitored. In this way, the target of this surveillance was definitely him. God Feng Zhao was just suffering along with him. After all, God Feng Zhao and Grievous were very familiar with each other. Dustless was an outsider with an unknown identity and strength. He was also a rare male elf user. It was normal for Grievous to be suspicious. I also protest. Dustless suddenly spoke. He looked up and saw the small broken house beside the stable. Dustless was unhappy. He pointed at God Feng Zhao and said, this place suits him. I want to live somewhere else. Why should I live here? In the end, you are the outsider. You should be the one living here. God Feng Zhao looked at Dustless angrily. Before he even got close to the stable, he could already smell the stench. Is this place suitable for humans to live? Why? What a joke. Based on strength. Dustless looked at God Feng Zhao with disdain and sneered, you are just a loser. How dare you talk terms with me? Are you itching for a beating again? It's just a matter of a thought for me to destroy you. God Feng Zhao's face turned black. Being humiliated by Dustless like this, even a clay man would be angry. This brat's mouth is really asking for a beating. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Even if he was narcissistic, he should know where to stop. Even though Dustless was really very handsome, with regular facial features, bright eyes, and the confidence that he had everything under control was extremely attractive, Alice still opened her mouth to deny it due to her feminine modesty. As the leader of the Knights, if Alice praised Dustless as handsome, how could she establish herself in the future? Wouldn't she be seen as a love-struck fool? TSK. I knew you would answer like that. You said I'm ugly, but it indirectly means that I'm ridiculously handsome, Dustless said with a smile, his face full of cunning and sinister. You bastard, don't you know the word low-key? Alice was really speechless. Can you not be so narcissistic? I want to be low-key, okay? Dustless pursed his lips and said with a helpless expression, "Even your dean is charmed by me and wants to live with me." Really, it's lonely at the top. As Dustless refused to live in the small shabby house next to the stable, Gravis also offered generous conditions to let Dustless live in her house temporarily. "Humph, don't say such things to me in the future. It's your fortune that the dean has taken a liking to you. Be content. You can also take the opportunity to ask the dean about his attainments in the aspect of elven envoys." Alice's tone was sour, jealous, and hateful. In her opinion, Dustless was just lucky. He didn't know how lucky he was, and he even slandered Gravis. How despicable. "According to what you said, I have to thank her." Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. This girl was still too naive. In the past few hundred years, Dustless had experienced too much. He had played countless schemes and schemes. Gravis was overestimating himself if he wanted to fight with Dustless with his means. It wasn't that Gravis wanted to teach Dustless. Of course, he couldn't rule out the possibility that he really cherished talent. However, Gravis mostly wanted to monitor Dustless. "You can monitor me, so why can't I slander you?" Dustless thought in his heart. He didn't think that he was going overboard by slandering Gravis. "That dean is really a bad woman," Dustless suddenly said. "You." Hearing that, Alice was instantly unhappy. Just as she was about to teach Dustless a lesson, the latter's sudden words made her speechless. "If she didn't like me, why would she want to live with me? Don't talk about teaching me techniques. I'm just a rookie. Why would she lower herself to teach me? She obviously wants to be an old cow eating young grass." Sigh, but I don't blame her. It's all because I'm too handsome. Dustless lamented and purposely raised his voice. These words contained a special power that penetrated the soundproof wall and fell into Grace's ears. Pfft! The hot tea that had entered his lungs spurted out. Gravis' face darkened. He could tell that Dustless did it on purpose. "You said that I'm an old cow eating young grass." Gravis almost went berserk. Chapter 2186. The night sky was filled with stars, and a cool breeze blew. The weather suddenly turned cold, and there were naturally fewer people. Most people chose to go back to sleep. After all, the elven messenger's homework was tiring, and no one wanted to waste time on unnecessary things. Of course, there were exceptions to everything. Living in such a nice place, aren't you afraid of being accused of abusing your position? Bad woman. Grievous's room. No, it would be more appropriate to call it a private villa. Crystals were the lighting, and silk was the carpet on the floor. It was extremely extravagant, a living example of a nouveau riche. If you don't like it, you can sleep on the streets. Grievous sat on the sofa, opened a bottle of red wine, and started drinking. "If you have anything to ask, just ask." Dustless didn't waste any time. He sat opposite Grievous, knowing that this woman would definitely have a lot of questions for him. After all, it was too strange for a male elven messenger to suddenly appear. "You know Demon King Suleiman?" Grievous put down the wine glass and asked in a deep voice. She originally thought that God Fengzhou was the successor of the Demon King, but with Dustless's appearance, this matter wasn't as simple as she thought. "Of course I know." Dustless nodded. "The person who brought disaster to the world 1,000 years ago. You want to say that either God Fengzhou or I is the successor of the Demon King, right? I originally thought that God Fengzhou was the successor of the Demon King, but with your appearance, this possibility was destroyed." Grievous's tone suddenly became heavier. "Although it's worth a surprise, to be honest, I don't think this is a good thing. That's for sure. You're afraid that the two Demon Kings will fight and bring disaster to the fish in the moat, right?" Wu Chen laughed mischievously. "If the school is destroyed, it'll be a tragedy. You No wonder Alice hates you so much. You don't know how to speak at all. Grievous's tone sounded like she hated Dushless, but her tone was as calm as before. Not only that, there was a hint of something strange. Is this woman a submissive? The worse the words, the more she likes it. Dustless's lips curled up slightly, and he looked at Grievous with a strange gaze. In short, there is only one successor to the Demon King. I don't think I need to say more, right? Grievous looked deeply at Dustless and explained, in other words, between you and Fengzhou, only one of you can become the Demon King. As for who will fail, I don't need to tell you. You called me here in the middle of the night just to talk nonsense. Dustless said absent-mindedly, with a trace of undisguised bitterness in his tone. I'm even prepared to be taken advantage of by you, but you're talking a lot of nonsense to me. Humph. Grievous's mouth twitched, and he said coldly, aren't you afraid that I will kill you and help Feng Zhao become the Demon King? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2187. You dare threaten me? Grievous' expression was a little dazed and surprised. He had always been the one threatening others. Who would have thought that one day in the future, he would be threatened by a kid of unknown origin? But, Grievous pursed his lips and muttered to himself in a voice as soft as a mosquito, what an interesting kid. I'm getting more and more interested in you. Even though Grievous' accent was very soft, Dustless heard it clearly. He didn't miss a single word. You're indeed a bottom, you pervert. After saying that, Dustless distanced himself from Grievous with a face full of fear and a look that said, don't mess around. This kid. Why is he asking for a beating? Grievous covered his eyes with both hands and didn't want to look at Dustless's face anymore. He was definitely a jinx. In these few minutes, he had suffered more grievances than he had in a lifetime. The next morning, after eating breakfast, Dustless rushed to class early. It was the first time that Dustless came into contact with the profession of elven messenger. Even though it was purely useless, there was no harm in having more skills. Stop right there, you perverted beast. A familiar arrogant tone came from behind, as if a noble queen had arrived. Even without looking back, Dustless knew who this person was. In the entire Alicia Elven Academy, only Claire called him a perverted beast. Dustless turned his head and asked, Girl, why are you not in class so early in the morning? Humph, you are my contracted elf. You have no right to interfere with my business, you slave elf. Claire looked like she had eaten gunpowder and stared at Dustless covetously. If you have something to say, just say it, Dustless said helplessly. Cough, cough, cough. Claire coughed twice and stared at Dustless for a while before asking in a slightly embarrassed tone, last night. Dean Grievous didn't do anything strange to you, right? Strange things. Dustless looked at Claire playfully. He rubbed his chin and laughed, of course I did. That old witch wanted to take advantage of me and almost ruined my chastity. Claire was completely speechless. Dustless's words sounded like a deliberate blow to her. It's good that you're okay. Claire nodded slightly, a cute smile blossoming on her pretty face. Although her mouth was a bit vicious, it was undeniable that this proud girl was kind-hearted. That Dustless. At this moment, a slightly hesitant voice suddenly rang out. Dustless's gaze swept over. It was Alice, who had an unnatural expression on her face. Her face was full of hesitation, as if there was something that she couldn't say. Don't tell me you also want to ask me how I was last night. Dustless said bluntly. Of course not. After her thoughts were exposed, Alice's awkwardness disappeared in a flash. She then said with a red face, after all, there's still the competition in 3 days. If you died, who would I vent my anger on? Chapter 2188. Pooh. Celestial being Feng Zhao was beaten to the point of vomiting blood. This seemingly weak slap actually contained a terrifying strength. His entire mouth was slapped crooked by Wu Qin. You dare to hit me? God Feng Zhao was enraged. He was stuttering as he stared at Dustless ferociously. His eyes were like those of a hungry wolf, filled with killing intent. Did I hit the wrong person? Dustless had an innocent look on his face as he said righteously, you peeked at other people's beautiful legs. You should be grateful that I didn't gouge your eyes out. Dustless looked at him as if he should be grateful. Bastard, you are framing me. God Feng Zhao jumped up in anger. If he had really peeked at other people's legs, he wouldn't have been slapped in vain. However, God Feng Zhao claimed that he was innocent. He didn't look at other people's legs at all. He had been plotting how to retaliate against Dustless. Framing you? Then why are you hiding in the corner? He obviously has a guilty conscience. Dustless chuckled. Although he was being unreasonable, in everyone's ears, it was much more convincing than God Feng Zhao's words. Since he didn't peek at other people's legs, why would he hide and peek? After all, God Feng Zhao had been hiding in the corner sneakily. Furthermore, his eyes were flickering. He didn't look like a good person. You bastard. Seeing the house that she had painstakingly built being destroyed, Alice was instantly enraged. The two of you better stop before you go too far. She pointed her slender finger at Dustless and God Feng Zhao and shouted, are you provoking me? Or are you doing it on purpose for me to see? If that's the case, I have to congratulate the two of you. The two of you have really angered me. Alice was like a tigress that had gone berserk. Spittle flew everywhere. She was always bullied by insinuations. Even a clay figurine would get angry. What does it have to do with me? God Feng Zhao glared at Alice. Miraculously, his aura was on par with Alice's. Perhaps at this moment, he had found the feeling of being Liena Subble. A kind person would be bullied, a kind horse would be ridden. Perhaps after being beaten up several times, Feng had already gained an epiphany. I'm sorry. I still have things to do. I don't have time to fight with this little demon. Goodbye. Wu Qin suddenly left. He stepped on the wind and left in a confident and at ease manner. This fellow really knows how to put on airs. God Feng Zhao curled his lips. In fact, he was quite envious of Dustless's unrestrained manner. He could come and go as he pleased. It was just that he was unwilling to admit it. Soon after, his eyes gently rotated before he smiled and said, if Dustless is willing to accept the punishment, I have nothing to say. Everything must be done according to the law. Don't try to fool me. Alice snorted and looked at Dustless. However, what made Alice angry was that Dustless completely ignored her and left directly. From start to finish, he didn't turn back. It was as if she wasn't talking about him. Stop right there. Seeing Dustless openly ignoring her, all the dissatisfaction in Alice's heart exploded. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. A storm suddenly swept up in the blue sky. Immediately after, clear cries filled the sky, filled with endless arrogance. Looking up, a huge bird with full wings streaked across the sky. That's Alice's contracted spirit, Smolf. The surrounding students were all visibly moved, and they all understood that Alice was being serious. Hearing the arrogant cries, Dustless stopped in his tracks. He was slightly absent-minded as he looked up at the sky. A soaring eagle spread its wings and soared high in the sky. Other than Claire's contracted spirit, this was the second time he saw someone else's contracted spirit. How is it? Isn't it beautiful? Seeing that Dustless was in a daze as he stared at Smolf who was soaring in the sky, Alice blinked her eyes and was extremely pleased with herself. Yes, it's really extraordinary. It seems to be of the wind attribute. After about a few seconds, Dustless retracted his gaze. However, he suddenly looked at Alice. But, what does this have to do with me? You brat! Alice's pretty face flushed red in the next second. However, she was at a loss for words and couldn't refute. After all, what Dustless said was the truth. No matter how beautiful the spirit was, it had nothing to do with Dustless. Private fights are prohibited on campus. You hit someone and even smashed mine. In short, you've violated the school rules. Alice looked at Dustless with an unfriendly expression. Go ask that old witch who was watching the show. If she wants to find trouble with me and wants to punish me, then I have nothing to say. He pointed at the tall building in the distance. The windows were open, and the dean, Gravis, was looking at the scene with interest. Dean. Alice's expression changed slightly. A hint of surprise flashed across her eyes. She cursed in her heart. After this brat appeared, the dean seems to be more biased towards him. How is it? You have nothing to say, right? Wu Chen smiled complacently. His smug look made Alice want to beat him up. It was an eyesore. Why does this brat always get special treatment? God Feng Zhao was also secretly depressed. He didn't know what made the always impartial witch side with Dustless. They are indeed a bunch of naive brats. I don't have any special treatment. In the end, it's just that this woman is afraid of my strength and is wary of me. Therefore, in some unnecessary situations, she also turns a blind eye. Dustless shook his head. Soon after, under Alice's unhappy gaze, he slowly left again. No one stopped him. Damn it, what's so different about this brat? At this moment, Alice could only stomp her feet in anger. Thinking about what Dustless said casually before, her expression was extremely interesting. She complained in her heart, could it be, this brat really has something going on with the dean? This damn pretty boy, he used flowery words to bewitch the dean. It seemed like this was the only possibility. Otherwise, Alice really couldn't understand why Gravis was so biased towards Dustless. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2189. If Dustless and Grievous knew about this, especially Grievous, if he knew that Alice would slander him like this, he would definitely want to cry. After all, there was nothing between her and Dustless. There must be a problem. I know that old witch's personality. She will definitely seek revenge after being bullied by Dustless a few times. It's too strange that she didn't even move an inch after being bullied by Dustless. Feng Zhao bent over with a shrewd look on his face. His shining eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. You brat, stop right there. As a slave elf, you actually don't listen to your master. Claire jogged over. Her little face was flushed pink, looking very cute. Come here. Regardless of whether Dustless was willing or not, Claire pulled Dustless into a corner. Her shifty eyes scanned the surroundings. After confirming that there was no one around, she leaned close to Dustless and whispered in his ear, I couldn't tell that you're so capable. Even that cold dean was taken care of by you. I do want to take care of her, but that old woman is like a block of wood, Dustless said, rolling his eyes. Block of wood. Claire was stunned. Immediately, she asked with a puzzled expression, what do you mean? Are you saying that she doesn't know how to have fun? That's not it. Dustless shook his head lightly. Although Grievous was very young and had fair skin and a beautiful appearance, his actual age was far beyond this stage. Once a person lived for a long time, some aspects of their instincts would gradually fade, such as the physical aspect. Forget it, get out of my way. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. I still want to test my contracted elf. Dustless waved his hand impatiently. You dare to make me leave? Bastard, do you want to rebel? Claire put her hands on her hips, overbearing. A mere slave elf was too arrogant. Do you want to turn into charcoal? Slave elf. Her beautiful big eyes locked onto Dustless. Claire had already taken out her long whip at some point. You're always asking for a beating every time we meet. With a flash, Dustless silently appeared behind Claire and lifted her skirt without any hesitation, revealing her pure and flawless skin. Paw ****. After a few consecutive slaps, the scarlet handprints almost covered her snow-white skin. You perverted beast, you dare to spank my butt. Claire's anger multiplied. Her flame-like red hair stood on end and flames burned around her body. Why wouldn't I dare? Anyway, you call me a big pervert every day. If I don't do something perverted, wouldn't I have been scolded for nothing? That would be a huge loss for me. Dustless blinked innocently, as if he was the one who was at a disadvantage. Claire was so angry that she trembled and couldn't even speak properly. She angrily said, turn into charcoal for me, you perverted smelly. Oh, Claire Lucio, how embarrassing. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.